at least, in our national books, there are these chapters which say meanwhile in the South, right? Which is, I know I lived in the South, the South Indians got very irritated by that. But at least you get a meanwhile in the South. Like East India, Northeast, doesn't even get that meanwhile. West India, Central India, Emperor Bhoj, it's like all our history is just concentrated around Delhi, which is extremely unfortunate. The rest of India has not got fair airtime.
And now to the session that we've really been anticipating with great excitement. Amish Tripathi is known for being a polymath. He's been, a diplomat. He's a writer. He's now entered a completely new avatar, which is of a game designer. We are here today to celebrate his entire breadth of work, but also it's the Chennai launch of his new book, The Chola Tigers, which is the Avengers of Somnath, and also to talk about a gigantic mammoth project that he's on called the Age of Bhaarat, which is a AAA, which is really top-line gaming, which is a kind of modern vehicle for India's ancient soft power. It's a new, ambitious game that he's creating with, collaborating with world-class gaming company, the Tara company, and it is really to position India's ancient mythology in ways that global audiences can connect with. Amish is, of course, very well loved for the books that he has written, the Shiva trilogy, the Ram series. Interestingly, his first book was rejected by 20 publishers, and he self-published it. And you can imagine all the first 20 publishers are kicking themselves. It's a little bit like the Indian J.K. Rowling story, because his books have gone on to sell more than 8 million copies after that. His Chola Tigers is going to be outside. Amish is going to be signing it after this. But first, let's dive into this myriad and fascinating world. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Amish Tripathi. Yes. Thank you, Amish. I'm good. My team wants you to sit there.
Thank you.
Amish, it's fantastic to have you here. As I said, you're really prolific. I didn't add in that introduction that he's also done shows, he's done documentaries. So he's a very busy man, and it's really good to have you here. Amish, I want to first start with just a kind of elevator pitch on the Chola Tigers. We want everyone to buy the book. They've not already read it, so we won't deep dive into the plot, etc. But what triggered it for you, and what's the conceit of the book?
If there's that trailer downloaded, hopefully they can play that.
Yes, we'll show it in the middle as soon as it's downloaded.
So there's a book of mine that I published in 2020 called Legend of Suhail Dev. I can't see much into the audience, but how many would have read that book? Okay, a decent number.
Okay, you're not part of the 8 million.
Okay, the rest of you guys, shame on you, man. But even Suhail Dev is available, hopefully, out there. Check that out. But Legend of Suhail Dev is actually based on a warrior king who lived 1,000 years ago in UP, just to the east of Ayodhya, who fought the invading Ghaznavid army. And in that, there was a reference to Emperor Rajendra Chola as well. Because I did in that book that King Suhail Dev asked for help from Emperor Rajendra Chola for that war that was to come. And, but this book, The Chola Tigers, is actually linked to that book. This is this is kind of like a prequel. All my books are linked. That's why you're forced to buy more than one copy. That's a marketing strategy.
Can I evoke the literary side of you, not the marketing side of you right now?
So this is sort of a prequel to the Legend of Suhail Dev. And it's based on a premise that Emperor Rajendra Chola, who was the most powerful man on earth in the early to mid 11th
10th
century, sent an assassination squad to Ghazni to take vengeance for Mahmud's attack on the Somnathji temple. So this is a historical fiction book based on that mission, on that surgical strike, if you will.
Right. So, I know that you're an absolutely passionate devotee of Shiva, so I'm going to come to that, but that really is a link.
As was Emperor Rajendra Chola, by the way. How many
Yes.
of you guys have been to the Brideshwara temples too? I'm not surprised out here, but again, those who haven't, because I saw, guys, it's right next door, man. But if you go to those temples, both his father, Emperor Raja Chola, and Emperor Rajendra Chola, they'd built temples out there. And when I'd visited there, I'd studied in Tamil Nadu as well in the 1980s.
I was just going to say he's a Chennai boy, so
Yeah.
please welcome him
Ooty
very
boy.
warmly.
Yeah, I'm one of the few North Indians who can pronounce Kadagam properly, I think. Most North Indians pronounce it as Kazagam. Yeah, so I'd read Ponniyin Selvan in the 1990s. That's when I think the English edition had come out. That was on Emperor Rajraj Chola. Anyway, the point is that there's a massive relief sculpture outside the temples where, from what I recall, Lord Shiva is sitting on the Kailash mountain, and Emperor Rajraj Chola and Emperor Rajendra Chola are on two sides, standing with a fan, standing like servants of Lord Shiva. It just shows, and you find very rare sculptures where emperors show themselves like this. And these were temples built by them. It shows the extent of the devotion that they had for Lord Shiva. And these are things I actually, the Cholas have sadly been ignored in our national history books. I've not got fair airtime. So these are things that aren't as well known.
Right. So, you have this thing about history, and yes, that it's been a very North-centric, Delhi-centric.
More Delhi-centric, actually. It's not just the South.
Even
Like
the East.
Yeah. At least, in our national books, there are these chapters which say, meanwhile in the South, right? Which is, I know I lived in the South, the South Indians got very irritated by that. But at least you get a meanwhile in the South. Like East India, Northeast, doesn't even get that meanwhile. West India, Central India, Emperor Bhoj, it's like all our history is just concentrated around Delhi, which is extremely unfortunate. The rest of India has not got fair airtime.
Right.
Delhi is important, don't get me wrong, but other regions also should be covered.
No, absolutely. And there's no debating that. And thankfully, there's a lot of new history writing, fiction writing coming up focused on all of this. And the conceit of an assassination team, which is cross-Indian, going out to get Ghazni is an interesting conceit, and I'll urge all of you to buy it. But Ghazni died of tuberculosis.
Thank you. I didn't pay her commission for that.
Yeah. But he died of tuberculosis or malaria or something.
Malaria. It said malaria,
Yeah.
So some of the history books say, yeah.
Yes. So I was just interested, one is that this is fascinating, writing alternate histories, historical fiction, but particularly with this idea of a concerted assassination team on Ghazni, it's interesting because the Cholas, Vijayaraj, of the Hampi kingdom, the Vijayanagar kingdom, Krishna Devaraya, even Shivaji himself had invited Aurangzeb to hit Bijapur. So, there's always, in that medieval period, the Cholas were fighting the Rashtrakutas, the Chalukyas. So this idea of a unified Hindu India that will hit back as an assassination team on Ghazni, is that a bit of a kind of mispositioning of the way medieval India really was?
Interesting question. Firstly, I should clarify in my book, and so in Suhail Dev as well, I don't make it as a Hindu-Muslim issue. And I think the best answer on this was given by, on the issue of the last 1,000 years, was given by a very legendary archaeologist called K.K. Mohammed Saab. I'm sure you've heard of him. I'd interviewed him for a documentary I'd made. And he'd said something very beautiful. He said, I'm an Indian Muslim. Babar was from Uzbekistan. What do I have to do with him? And he said, this is not a Hindu-Muslim issue. This is an Indian foreigner issue. Among the griefs that I have with uh, history, the way it has been presented to us 1947 onwards. And this part was regrettably a continuation of British Raj, of the British Raj policies. The British colonial invasion was not portrayed as the Christian invasion, but the Turkic colonial rule was called the Islamic invasion. This, if you ask me, was extremely mischievous. Because there's almost an attempt to show that Indian Muslims were also a part of this. Which many historical records show is not true. For example, if you read the works of Faiz Ahmad, he shows that in Agra, for example, during what we call the Mughal period, but they call themselves Timurid, they didn't call themselves Mughal. Timur, as you know, was a Turk. They were descendants of Timur. They didn't think Babur was the founder of their dynasty. They thought Timur was the founder of their dynasty. So in Agra fort, Indian Muslim converts are not allowed. Some upper caste Hindus were allowed. Indian Muslim converts were not allowed. Only foreigner Muslims who were Turks, Arabs or Persians were allowed. You spoke of Chhatrapati Shivaji, Emperor Krishnadev Raya. If you see their own records, when they are fighting, say the Mughals or the Adil Shahis, they don't use the term Muslims in their records. They use the term Turuksha, okay, which is Turks. Our ancestors were very clear, they were fighting foreigners. And I think one of the misfortunes that has happened in the way history has been present, there are other misfortunes as well, but one of the misfortunes that the Turkic colonial rule has been presented as this Islamic invasion, which is extremely mischievous, which creates fights today, and which is unfortunate, and that needs to be corrected. We are clear that the British colonial rulers had nothing to do with Indian Christians. We should be equally clear that the Turkic colonial rulers had nothing to do with Indian Muslims. And Bollywood movies add to this confusion. You know, so many people think Alauddin Khilji looked like Ranveer Singh, you know, or Aurangzeb looked like Akshay Khanna. No, they did not, right? And that they spoke Urdu, right? Urdu is our language, man. They would have spoken Turkic or Persian. We are very clear in our popular culture that the British were foreigners. We are not so clear that what we call the Delhi Sultans or the Mughals, they are actually Timurid, they were foreigners too. They self-identified as foreigners.
Even I mean, after 5 generations.
Even after 5 generations, you find it changing only post Ahmad Shah Rangila onwards, from what I have read. And there are now translations coming out of Baburnama, and those texts are available. So I think we should have a little more debate on that, because it unfortunately injects poison into the modern body politic. This is a reality of what happened. Those invasions were brutal. That's a reality.
Yeah. So in fact, that brings me, and you know, we've had several sessions on history here, and one does want to have an open, you know, informed discussion about it, minus the heat, the modern heat around
More
it.
light than heat.
Yeah, more light than heat. That's well put. And in fact, even with Vikram Sampat's book on Tipu Sultan, we said there should be a line, Lakshman Rekha is 1947. Anything that happened before 1947 should not impact the modern day citizen, you know, so there's that. But because you mentioned the word, the issue of invasion, that also was very interesting for me, particularly in the context of the Cholas, because unlike most other Indian kingdoms and Rajas who did not have military operations outside, they fought each other, Hindu, Turkish, Muslim, whoever it be, they fought each other with equal opportunity. But it's really only the Cholas that went out with military operations outside to the southeast, but most importantly to Sri Lanka, and where the, Anuradhapura, they really burnt it to the ground. So there again, I was interested in, we valorize that, but not to at all excuse the medieval brutalities of the Ghaznis and Gauris and etc. But again, do you think that was just medieval times, the invasion? And why do we valorize Chola going to Sri Lanka and destroying a Buddhist civilization there?
You make a good point. And there were some conquerors who did that, not all. But I think a key difference is at two levels. One is the scale of destruction. Second is how their contemporaries themselves recorded it. So yes, you're right. These were battles that were fought in Sri Lanka. Some of them were very aggressive. Not as a part of a policy, maybe in some wars. There were Buddhist rulers who attacked Kalinga, and because the Kalingas, the Odiyas, have a very different memory of what happened and the brutality that they suffered. Now, these are realities that happened. There was also, in the slightly pre-medieval era, two kings called Toramana and Mihirakul, who were Central Asian guys, rulers. So they'd come from the steppe lands. One of them was a Buddhist, one of them was a Hindu, father-son. And they were extremely brutal. To all religions that were not there. Now, this was pre-Islamic, okay? To all religions that were not their religion. So, yes, these individual cases did happen. The thing very clearly is if you look at the scale, if you look at, say, the works of Will Durant, and people who have nothing to do with Indian history, they're foreigners, right? And who spoke of the scale of destruction that many of the Central Asian invaders and later, that's steppe land invaders, and later the European invaders did to many ancient cultures across, who destroyed the Abbasid Empire in Arabia. Again, steppe land invaders. India, China, many of these places, Europe. These guys were brutal beyond imagination. Temur killed 5% of the world's population in the 13th century. And remember, this was 13th century, okay? No nuclear bombs, no dynamite, no machine guns. Killing people was damn hard work, right? You had to stab, you had to behead. It was damn hard work. He killed 5% of the world's population, man. He was a Turk. There are friends in the US who tell me, how many of you have seen Game of Thrones?
All of us.
Yeah? You've seen the Dothraki tribe?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were based on the Turks, right? So they were brutal beyond imagination. It's just that India is among the ancient cultures that survived. Other cultures did not survive. So our memory of that suffering is here, is still there. So one is the scale. Second is contemporary records of the celebration of that destruction. Mihirakul, yes, was a Hindu. Toramana, yes, was a Buddhist. Their own contemporaries, Buddhists and Hindus, were saying, what nonsense are these buggers doing? Right? Whereas with many of these Turkic rulers, their own contemporaries, oh wow, we wiped out this district, we've wiped out these, and they had specific words for non-believers. And this was not just true in India, this was true across. It's just, we survived. And speaking the truth of the past is one way to make peace with it, right? You don't pussyfoot around, say, Nazi war crimes or British colonial war crimes. I mean, in my opinion, British Raj was a lot like Nazi Germany with better PR, frankly, right? Winston Churchill killed, between 3 to 4 million of our fellow Indians in Bengal, and from your region, right? How is he different from Hitler, man? Just because he wrote better English. So we must speak the truth of these, but at the same time, I've spoken of this in the UK as well, even as a diplomat, and I have, I think, a polite way of speaking, I think. But one should not hate today's people. So for example, for me to hate today's white British people for what Winston Churchill did or Robert Clive did is stupid, right? Community guilt, historical guilt, these are concepts I don't support. But we must speak the truth of what happened.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And that's why I was saying that definitely truth-telling, about the scale of destruction. But I do always also put a torchlight on the fact that there were so many internecine conflicts between the Turkish...
Never on this scale. Never on this scale. So, for example, did the Arabs fight each other? Yeah. Never on the scale of what the Mongols and the Turks did to them. Never. So there is a difference.
Right.
It's a question of scale. It's a question of whether your contemporaries think that it's a damn good thing that you did, or they are criticizing you. It tells you something about what's happening among those people and that culture at that time. Like among the Nazis, ideally, there should have been more people saying, "My God, what are you doing?" Right? But there weren't that many. Among the British,
So just on that, with the coming back to Chola, and I now want to go on the other side of his achievements. But I was just interested in your perspective on this. But coming back to him, are you saying that when he sacked Anuradhapura,
Anuradhapura, yeah.
yes, that there were contemporary accounts from within his own kingdom or of others who were condemning
I'm sure
that?
there would have been, because I haven't read this specific case, because this was not a stated policy. This is not something prescribed by their interpretations of the religions. So, for example, the Awadh Nawabs were also Muslims. They never had a policy like this. And it's not prescribed in their thing. So then you can make out that, yes, their culture was different as compared to the
Central.
Timurid Mughals or the Delhi Sultans or the Khiljis, right?
Yeah.
In fact, the Awadh Nawabs, like, for example, Wajid Ali Shah, he was a Muslim Nawab. He himself wrote, classical plays and musical pieces in love of Lord Krishna, which tells you something about what the culture of at least his people and his elite group was. And we must speak the truth of these things without any rancor or hatred.
Right. That again, just on the Mughals, not on the Khiljis and the other Central Asian invaders, but on the Mughals, we'll get sidetracked, so I'm not going to go there. But from Jahanara to others to what was Aurangzeb's brother who got killed?
Dara Shikoh.
Dara Shikoh.
In my mind, that was one of the misfortunes of India, that Dara Shikoh did not become emperor. But again, in our contemporary thinking, how much of Dara Shikoh is covered, right? How much is he celebrated? How many people name their children Dara Shikoh? How many of you have read The Mingling of Two Oceans? How many of you have heard of The Mingling of Two Oceans? Oh, man.
Yeah. So, okay.
It is the text that Dara Shikoh wrote. I think one of the most beautiful texts ever written, right? Now, it's sad that we ourselves don't celebrate this, and this is what I mean, that what are the heroes that we celebrate and remember? Because that teaches us about how we should be today. Your role models build who you are. And that, to me, is, I think, part of the issues with contemporary public square discussions, that who are we holding up as heroes to learn from, and no one is perfect, man, don't get me wrong. No one is perfect, right? But, there is a scale, and one can clearly see that scale.
Right.
If one removes the scales from the eyes.
Right.
That's a good line.
It's a good line. But yes, so the Deccan Plateau in particular, it was like a moving jigsaw of wars against each other and all of that. But coming to the Cholas, he's both the father and the son are fascinating people, because they took, their entire civilization southeast. And that's unusual because they crossed the seas, they were a maritime power. So do spend a little bit telling us what makes them so unique, and then we'll shift to your other passions.
I will, but I should say the fact that we think that they're unique is again an indictment of our history books. Because Indians have since time immemorial actually been a maritime civilization.
Actually, we have Roman gold over here.
We have among the largest hoards of Roman gold outside of the Roman Empire, because it was centuries of trade surpluses. Indians were the first ones to develop deep sea navigation, by the way. Ancient records, Akkadian records, ancient Mesopotamian records speak of a vast, wealthy land of brown-skinned people in the east called Meluha, right? That's where I got the name from. Who come in ships to trade with them. And I'm talking about 3,500 years ago. Centuries before Emperor Raja Chola went out there, there was, I think, someone, Kaundinya, who went, I think, either from the Odia lands or Andhra lands to Cambodia, by the way. How many Odiyas here? Any Odia? No? Okay.
There's only that much national integration that you can imagine.
More's the pity. But there's something called the Bali Yatra in Odisha. Okay. Where is Bali? There you go. Indonesia. And this festival has been running for 1500 years, man. Odiyas used to travel. They used to travel with the winds. You know, the problem with deep sea, sorry, I'm getting sidetracked. I'm very passionate about this subject. The problem with deep sea sailing was that winds only blow in one direction. You remember 6th standard geography, trade winds? Yeah. They only blow in one direction. So if you had to trade, you could use the winds in one direction. On the way back, you needed slaves. That's why the Mediterranean Sea had so much slavery. They needed slaves in the galley to row. There's only one ocean on Earth, only one ocean, where the winds change direction like clockwork. Which ocean?
The
Indian Ocean.
Yeah.
Because you have the northeast winds blowing, northeast monsoons which come here, and monsoon time, they change direction, southwest. It's a round trip. Yeah. Which is why the Bali Yatra festival is actually in winter time. Because that's when our traders sailed out and then they came back. This was a rich tradition in India, which sadly we're not aware of. But having said that, this has nothing to do with my book. Come back to my book.
Yeah.
When I write a non-fiction book on this, we'll speak more on it.
Yeah. Not to plug some other author's book, but Willie Dalrymple's Empire of Ideas was interesting.
William Dalrymple and Sanjeev Sonyal, both of them have written on this. William Dalrymple's latest book, The Golden Road, is a fantastic thing on this, and Ocean of Churn by Sanjeev Sanyal. Check them out.
Yeah.
But before that, check out the Chola Tigers. It's right outside.
Stop.
No such thing as too much marketing.
Yeah, we're going to come to how you're marketing Indian epics and all of that. But before that, you know, Shiva is such a central character, a god in your life. You were first an atheist. You come from a religious family, but now, as I said, you're an ardent devotee of Shiva. So, one, evoke for us why you went from atheism to being a believer. And secondly, what is the conception of Shiva beyond, you know, just the religious aspects of him, but the philosophical conception of Shiva, which makes him so grand? What about him attracts you so much?
Oh, okay. So many things. But firstly, yes, I grew up in a very religious and liberal family, which in traditional India is actually not a contradiction.
Yeah.
The more you read our scriptures, the more intuitively liberal you'll become. It's natural. But I turned into an atheist in my college days. I was an atheist for some time, in my banking days as well.
It helps.
It helps.
If you're God-fearing, yes. You can't be a banker.
I don't know how many bankers are here. To them, I apologize. To the non-bankers, all of us bankers apologize. But when I started, I slowly kind of returned to faith as I started writing Melua. In a sense, it was a return. It wasn't a discovery. And because I learned a lot from my family in my younger days, learned a lot of our scriptures, our culture, our traditions, our stories, our philosophies. But through this phase of atheism, I think, and coming back, I think I understand it much better now. So why does Lord Shiva attract me? It's at various levels. Yeah, there's, ancient dharmics believe there are various levels of existence. One of the theories is the 3 levels. Sorry, Sthula, Sukshma, and Karan. Sthula is like the obvious, the base level. At that base level, look, for someone who's naturally kind of slightly anti-elitist and rebellious, as I am, no better God than Lord Shiva. As one of my younger readers had said, he's the dude of the gods. And for those of us who like to challenge things, who don't like the establishment narratives, who just like new things, Lord Shiva is definitely attractive. But I think at a deeper level, what Lord Shiva does for any individual, because truth is usually in the balance, right? There's lovely Sanskrit line, Ati Sarvatra Varjayit. Extremism of any kind should be avoided. Always try and find the balance. And Lord Shiva in many ways helps you do that, I think. He is a Bairagi, he's a yogi, he likes to be by himself, but he's also a brilliant family man. If you've noticed, not just in my books, even in his traditional interpretations, he sits with Goddess Parvati as an equal. She sits shoulder to shoulder with him as an equal. Even if you see the traditional stories, they are very equal. So he's like a Bairagi, a kind of a yogi, individualist, but also a family man. It's a contradiction, right? He has, there's a line in Banaras, Jiska koi nahi, uska Shivji hai. That, the real masses, the goals, the outsiders of society, Lord Shiva is their God. But he's also God of the elites because he's the Nataraj, the Lord of dance, the Lord of music. He's a Sundareshwar, right? He has so many of these contradictions. He can be very beautiful as Sundareshwar, but yeah, he can, kind of dress shabbily as well.
Aghori as well.
These contradictions, I think, helps people get balanced. If you're an elite person and you get attracted to Lord Shiva through his music, through his dance, and then you understand from him that just like Lord Shiva, you should love the common people too. You get balanced, right? If you're a communist type who thinks all elites are bad, right? And obviously then you're rebellious. You'll get attracted to Lord Shiva. And then you see Lord Shiva actually does things which could, appeal to the elite as well. If you're someone who's too much of, I'm a loner by myself. You see Lord Shiva, such a good husband. You want to be like him. If you're a full family man but are not focused on meditation, not focused on yoga, again from Lord Shiva you can do that. You notice there are contradictions that helps you balance. That's at a deeper level. At the deepest level, Lord Shiva is pure possibility and nothingness. Nirgun Nirakar, that's too difficult to understand. And for that, I'll need 72 hours to explain to you guys. So.
Okay. So just before we come to the age of Bharat and, how you're bringing all of this into the gaming. And do you want some hot
Sorry,
water?
My throat is... No, I have water. There's a throat medicine that I have. Sorry, my throat's packing up. Too much promotions and marketing.
Okay.
Sorry, carry on with the question.
Yeah, so I was saying that before we come to the age of Bharat and you're evoking the world of the Ramayana there, but like I said, it's like a vehicle to bring all of this into contemporary gaming culture. It's a fascinating thing to do. But before that, you've made a lot of, you've made a show and a documentary on Shiva Tirthsthans. Were there anything new that you discovered in this journey? New aspects of the faith, new insights into Indian psyche while making the film?
Yeah, so many things, man. For example, one right here in Tamil Nadu, there's a temple dedicated to the Ardhanareshwar Roop of Lord Shiva. Have any of you guys been to that temple? So in the north, we are aware of Ardhanareshwar. Everyone knows what Ardhanareshwar is, right?
Yes.
Yeah? Half Lord Shiva, half Goddess Parvati. You know the story behind it. Yeah, Rishi Bringi wanted to teach him a lesson. Male, female are equal. But I actually saw a temple dedicated to Ardhanareshwar. I've never really seen that before in the north. I don't know if they were there and they were destroyed in the invasions, but I have never heard of them. And it's fascinating to see that out there. And it's in Tamil Nadu. Those who haven't gone, please go. It's a wonderful temple. It's also believed that it's a very auspicious place to get married. So my wife and I got married once again out there. I'm just
Is he a transformed man after that?
I hope so.
I'm sad she doesn't have the mic.
I'm certainly not half feminine yet, no. Okay. But this is something I didn't know, and I'm a Shaivite. I didn't know. So there are many things like this that one discovers through... Because in the Indian way, you have various different local traditions. It's not that there's one text and everyone has to follow it. So you see so much variety. I saw that in the Legends of the Ramayana, saw that in Legends of Shiva, many documentaries that I've done with Discovery TV.
Right. So,
which I host, incidentally. Yeah.
We'll come to the Ramayana, but you had said something interesting earlier, which was that the more you read the scriptures or you understand dharma, that you'll become a liberal, And there are, in fact, many argumentative traditions in all the sort of schools of religion in India. But you have a very interesting concept of the Purva Paksha and the, Uttar Paksha. So can you just share that with the audience? Because I think in this era of conflict, that's a very powerful concept to articulate.
Yeah, I should clarify, it's not my concept.
Not yours, I'm saying
it's an ancient
there.
Indian concept.
Yes.
Which once again we are not taught in our education system, sadly. We're still quite colonial in how we approach education. We should decolonize. And I assure you, King Charles is not going to come and protest here if we decolonize. Our mode of debating in the modern day is based on the Western paradigm, the adversarial system. Even our court system is based on that. There's this side and the other side, and you're supposed to essentially win. Part of this comes from the Greek rhetoric tradition, various others, but it developed more in Western Europe later. And this, by its very nature, is adversarial. Your job is to prove the other guy wrong. Our TV debates are also like this. And by their very nature, they become so loud. You can hear them often even if you switch the TV set off. But our ancient Vada traditions were very different. Because the purpose was not to prove the other person wrong. The purpose was to learn something. So the traditions that we had was first Purva Paksha and Uttar Paksha. Purva Paksha, it means you speak. If you're the person I'm debating with, you're not my opponent, you're a person I'm debating with. You speak your point of view, I have to listen to you, then I have to speak my understanding of what you said. And then you have to agree with me that I have understood it correctly. And only then can I give my answer. Now think about what this forces you to do. You have to listen to the other guy. In modern debates, you can make out this side is actually not really listening to the other person. All we are waiting for is that to deliver that one zinger, which can then go on Instagram and go viral, right? And with the suitable, whatever bizarre lines that we use, right? But if I have to do Purva Paksha, before I do Uttar Paksha, I have to listen to you. I have to listen to your actual arguments. And I might
correctly represent it.
Exactly. And you have to agree that I have understood it correctly. Right? Very often you'll see in debates, one person has said something, we twist it. Oh, this is what you meant. No, that's not what he meant. Or she meant. Right? But that's the way the modern debating style is. Because it's a gladiatorial match. It's a Western import. Which is very unfortunate. And the second thing that's very critical, this is mentioned in the Natya Shastra and various other texts, that a lovely line, Satyam Bruvat Priyam Bruvat Na Bruvat Satyam Apriyam. That speak the truth, but speak it with love. If you cannot speak it with love, stay silent. Don't tell you to lie, but stay silent. Now, essentially, what are our ancestors advising us? Just the value of good manners, man. You'll be shocked how much you can get another person to listen if you just speak with manners. This need to insult other people is what actually stops debate and stops the other person listening to you. And you might actually just convince the other guy, or you might learn something, right?
Yeah.
These traditions should be taught actually in our schools.
Yeah, I'm so glad now you put that well. I think it's very, very germane for our time, And that brings me in a way to this mammoth project, Amish, of creating the Age of Bhaarat. It's a new modern vehicle to take a kind of cultural psyche, ethos, value system. It's a kind of kamikaze way of making this enter the public consciousness or popular consciousness, particularly young people. And there was a interesting thing which Amish said, which is that the gaming culture, the gaming world is larger than music, cinema, performance, theater, all put together. Gaming is more than that, So that's a truly powerful.
Huge. How many of you guys are gamers? Anyone? Okay, very few in number. Your kids are probably all gamers. Okay, and those PlayStation games, etc. Now, The thing is that most of these, the real high-end ones are called AAA games. They're really big budget. Among the biggest creative products are actually games. The biggest creative product ever is GTA. Anyone knows what GTA is? Grand Theft Auto. Fantastic. Who said that? Applause, applause. You must be a youngster. Okay. Okay, you have kids. Okay. You're either young or you have youngsters who play these games. These are massive projects. And the thing with gaming is they're all based on Western subjects, right? And many of us assume that gaming is a subculture. Actually, we are the subculture. Gaming is the real culture. That's where all our kids are. And there's never been an Indian-themed AAA game. Various reasons, because it costs a hell of a lot of money. It's bigger than a Hollywood film.
Give an indicative range.
I'm talking about upwards of 100, 200 million US. It's expensive. It's very expensive. The second thing is that, like Grand Theft Auto, GTA 6, which is long delayed. Who spoke of GTA out here? I'm sure you know of your kids complaining about GTA 6's delay. I think they've already spent $1.5 billion, if I'm not mistaken. $1.5 billion with a B. Okay? And they will make that money up, no problem. The cost is very high, and India does not have the skill set for this, because the designing, the amount of effort, detailing that goes in, it's insane. So there's a Chinese AAA video game that has just come out. It grossed $1.5 billion in just a year. So the first Indian-themed AAA
So should we
video
invest
game.
in you now?
There is a company called Tara Gaming, in
There
which I'm
he
a
goes
co-founder. Yeah, those of you who want to invest, I'm not the guy to speak to. I'll put you in touch with the chairman of the company. Oh yeah, it's.
Yeah.
So
But
Amitabh Bachchan ji, I and Noordin Abood, we have jointly founded this company.
As I said, it's a very interesting, compelling story, conceit. But I think the only argument I was having with the idea of saying for his nation, because back then we have a civilizational idea of India, which predates, many, many thousand years. Even Alexander's generals speak of it. But the idea that there was a nation that was coming together, and that, in defense of the nation, across India's geography, people coming together, a sacred war. I think those are just, they seem like ahistorical, to that period.
Okay. I can quote various things, Vishnu Puran, Uttaram Yab Samudra Se. I won't go into all that. There are, of course, was there a political nation state of India? No. At that time, there was no political nation state of UK either, or England either at that time. Nations were cultural concepts. Did the cultural concept of India exist? Yes, they did. And in fact, like in the battle against Abdali, Ahmad Shah Abdali, who was an Afghan, who attacked, there were Hindus and Muslims who gathered with the Marathas. I'm sure aware of that, because there was a Muslim empire from the Bundela area, which had actually come. And they were Indians who fought foreigners. These concepts did exist. Is it as political nation-state-y as the modern day? No, but there was no concept of any political nation-state anywhere in the world at that time. It was a cultural concept, which is what I refer to.
Right.
And in my books, I always make it an Indian foreigner issue. You'll notice there's a woman in there. There are Hindus and Muslims who come together. I do not want to, if there's something we can learn from the battles that we lost of the last many centuries when invaders came to us, it was our internal divisions which cost us. In Jallianwala Bagh, the man who ordered the...
General Dyer.
General Dyer, he was a Britisher. Who were the people who actually shot? Indians, right? The same thing when Alauddin Khilji attacked Deep South. You guys are aware of this. There was an internal battle between the Pandyas and the Chodas, which is why they won. Our internal divisions is what defeated us. They didn't have to defeat us, we defeated ourselves. And there's one thing I would keep pleading, is don't give in to our typical temptation that we Indians have of fighting each other. There's always a reason. Region, language, caste, religion. That's one of my main appeals in both my books. There's a line which I quote, I'll just end with that. In the book, that's a line that's said in my native state of UP, Kaurav 100, Pandav 5, Tija aaye to 105. That the Kauravas may be 100, the Pandavas may be 5. If an outsider comes, we're 105. That's the attitude we must have.
Right. So just last question, Amish, so what is the world you're building inside Age of Bhaarat? We talked about Shiva, but this is the world of
Age of
Ramayana.
Bhaarat, you guys should see the trailer. Just Google it. Age of Bhaarat with the double A. The voiceover is Amitabh Bachchan, man. I mean, and it's the kind of visuals that you would have never seen on a AAA video game with an Indian subject in there. It's set in the age of the epics, in the age of the Ramayana. Excuse me, but you don't get to play Lord Ram. Your kids won't get to play Lord Ram. Sorry, that's not going to happen. But how it's going to be there is, if Lord Ram and Ravan were battling at the meta level, you're fighting the micro level battle, which is you're a forest warden who's fighting the minor Rakshasas who are within Ravan's army.
And you believe this is going to cross the border and become a global game? That's the intention.
It has to, otherwise we'll lose tons of money. Okay. And in fact, the trailer was reviewed by this guy called Asmon Gold. I'm assuming no one has heard of Asmon Gold out here. Your kids have, trust me. He is the biggest gaming reviewer in North America and therefore among the biggest in the world. And the chairman of our company, Nicola, sends me this very excited message early in the morning. I normally wake up early. I sleep early, wake up early. I'm a boring guy. And he said, Asmon Gold reviewed our trailer. And like his review itself has 1 million views. So I'm like, who the hell is Asmon Gold? And I forwarded it to my son. He's 16 years old. He said, my God, Asmon Gold reviewed your trailer. Dad, you're cool now.
Right. So we'll have to end it there. But thank you so much, Amish.
Thank you.
And this is a lesson in cool. We are all going to go up and Google Asmon Gold now.
Asmon Gold, Age of Bhaarat. Check it out.
Yes. Thank you so much, Amish.
Thank
Amish
you.
will be signing books outside. Do pick up his books. And thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, everybody.